dodge this.
One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of DTRH. It is June 16th, 2015. I have a jam-packed broadcast for you this evening. Joining me from the KBS crew is actually three of the four grand brains over at Kev Baker's show. Kev himself, Nano Girl, and Mr. Martin DJ NorthWest. What's up, guys?
Woohoo! I'm really glad you included our sister as part of the stalwarts of my team over there, Popeye. Couldn't do it without any of them over there, and it's a pleasure to come on with you, man.
I'm so glad that you guys gave me time. I know you all, do your own show, and you all have, your own personal lives, and we sacrifice a lot of time. And I kind of asked you guys last minute today to come on and hang out and chill with me, and so I can pick your brains, and so we could talk. And for the listeners, because they get to benefit from hearing more than just me. They get to benefit from hearing from you guys as well. And I respect the three of you. I respect all three of your opinions. You're all very intelligent. So it makes radio very easy, and it makes getting a lot of this information across very easily. So I want to hop right into it with the three of you. First, I want to get right into the TPP, because we can get into a bunch of other stuff, but I want to just throw this out there because this thing is back already. It's been less than a week since I did a show about this with Joe on Thursday. And that show went viral, by the way. And it's been less than a week, and they're trying to push it through again. And I know they were trying to vote on it today, and I don't know what the outcome is yet because I haven't gotten a chance to check so far. I checked earlier, and I there was no action on it yet, and I know there was a lot of pushback. And there were a lot of congressmen that were saying no. From what I understand, the Senate passed it, the Fast Track Authority, and now they're doing a push again for the House to pass it, and they're trying to pass it under another bill. So before I ask you guys about your opinions on this, because I'm sure you've looked into it, just for the benefit of the listeners, for the benefit of the people that might not have heard that TPP show that Joe and I did last week, I want to play. I have about 9 minutes of audio here, so you guys can put your slippers on for a few minutes. I just want to play 3 clips about the TPP. Now, this might sound repetitive to some of you that might have heard this last week, but just listen. This is something that literally affects all of us. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, atheist, Christian, Muslim, you're Jewish. It does not matter what your beliefs are. It doesn't matter what you do, what you believe in, what you don't believe in, what you think about. This affects you. Even if you don't think it affects you, it affects you. Okay? It all affects you. The Trans-Pacific Partnership will bite you in the rear end if you're in one of the countries that lives there. It'll change your laws. They have to literally change that. Part of this agreement is that your country will change its laws. That includes your local laws, ladies and gentlemen. What happens if these TPP countries, somewhere you sign this agreement and now they go in, remember, they can amend anything. You don't have any say over it. They go in and they say, you know what, we don't want any Trans-Pacific Partnership countries to use cash or have firearms. What happens then? Oh, well, our Constitution's null and void. No, it's not, Popeye. Actually, yes, it is. The framers left a little back door in it. If we sign on to treaties, the treaty has the authority. Now, what would happen if the treaty directly conflicted with our own Constitution, the basis of all of our laws? What about our First Amendment? What about any of the amendments or the Bill of Rights? Any of them? What about all that? It's all subject to this treaty. So it affects you even if you don't think it does, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I don't want to sit here and pontificate for too long. I do want to play these pieces of audio for you. There's 3 separate pieces of audio. I'm just going to play them back to back. And then I'm going to pick Sharon's brain, Kev's brain, and Marty's brain. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't ever heard the crew over at KBS, which I highly doubt if you listen to this network, but if you don't know the Kev Baker Show and the KBS crew, you need to familiarize yourself with them. And you will get a chance to tonight if this is your first time around listening to them, but I highly doubt it is. Anyway, let me get to the audio. Here's the audio on the TPP and what's going on as right now up to current. The third piece will tell you about what they're trying to pass now and how they're trying to sneak it through, again, under another bill called the TAA. They just love these little 3-letter acronyms. Ugh. Anyway, here we go.
Right now, big banking, software, pharmaceutical, and tobacco corporations are lobbying governments from 12 countries to negotiate the dirtiest deal you've never heard of. There's a reason you haven't heard of the TPP, or Trans-Pacific Partnership. There are some major corporations and government officials that don't want you to know what's in the deal. For one, our food safety standards, environmental protections, and local labor laws could all be threatened under the TPP. We could all be forced to pay significantly more for the medicines we need, and you could be fined or even sent to jail for downloading copyrighted content on the internet. How will they know if you do it? Because your internet service providers could be required to watch your online activity. But that's not even the scariest part. The TPP gives corporations the power to sue our government in secret foreign tribunals over any law or regulation they claim affects their expected future profits. Don't believe it? It's already happening. Recently, after Canada said U.S. big pharma corporation Eli Lilly's drug price-raising patents were not legit, the firm sued the Canadian taxpayers for a staggering $500 million. And now billions of dollars are being demanded from Germany after it decided to phase out nuclear power following the Fukushima disaster and improve environmental standards for coal-fired electric plants. Philip Morris and Chevron are in on the game too, raiding taxpayer dollars and trying to reverse crucial policies we all rely on. Thankfully, not everyone is willing to sign on the dotted line just yet. In fact, most government officials still have no idea what they're even signing on to, for good reason. So far, Democrats and Republicans in the House of Representatives have united against fast-tracking the TPP. But there is a mighty corporate lobby that wants to make sure the deal is signed and railroaded quickly through Congress before we know about the damage it will cause us. We must get our senators and representatives to stop fast-track. Here's the deal. Without a strong public outcry, politicians will only hear the concerns of multinational corporations. And once the TPP is signed, it's here forever. There's no expiration date and no separation clause. This dirty deal has been deliberately branded as a free trade agreement. It is anything but free for people like you and me. And it's not really about trade. It could cost us our internet freedom, labor rights, access to affordable medicine, the safety of our food, and protections that keep our water and air clean. Nobody wants to be stuck with a backroom deal we don't want and never voted for. Find out more, speak up, and spread the word.
The biggest threat to the internet you've probably never heard of The TPP is the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. TPP is a trade agreement being negotiated between more than 12 countries around the Pacific region. It has more than 26 chapters, and it covers a broad spectrum of issues, from trade of dairy, meat, textiles, and automobiles, to financial regulation, to labor regulations, and more. But one chapter poses a huge threat to the internet, the chapter concerning intellectual property enforcement. We can't exactly know what's in that chapter because TPP is being negotiated in secret through a series of backroom deals that shut out the public. Trade officials won't release the text of the agreement or even tell us what their policy positions are on any issue. One thing we know is that while the public is shut out of the negotiating process, private corporate interests aren't. In particular, big content industries are spending ginormous amounts of money in lobbying to convince policymakers that more aggressive and draconian copyright laws will lead to more innovation, more creativity, and more jobs. But in reality, that just isn't the case. If adopted, the copyright enforcement measures proposed in the TPP could make the internet intimidating and repressive. Users will be afraid to view, share, and interact with digital content. An early version of the text has been leaked, and you should be worried about what's inside. Internet service providers could be forced to become private copyright enforcers, lest they risk liability for the content posted by their users. While the TPP includes certain protection from liability, experience with similar provisions in the US suggests that ISPs will be encouraged to take down, filter, and block legitimate content, requiring only a private notice from an alleged copyright holder. The copyright industry is obsessed with restricting users from tinkering with devices and content, out of the fear that people will then use them for copyright infringing purposes. So what they do is install digital rights management software, or DRM, on devices to limit what users can do. Despite growing evidence that DRM does much more harm than good, this prevents consumers from unlocking their phones to change telecom carriers. Artists, like documentary filmmakers, who break encryption on a DVD or sample online streaming videos could face legal threats, even if the videos they create are legal. People with visual or reading disabilities can be prevented from changing the format of books and movies to make them more accessible. Not only that, DRM, backed by the full force of the law, can be used to stifle competition. For example, a company can block unauthorized software or content from working with their devices just by enabling DRM. Corporations claim that DRM is necessary to fight copyright infringement online and keep consumers safe from viruses. But there's no evidence that DRM does much to combat either of those things. Fans should not be treated like criminals, and companies should not get an automatic veto over user creativity, choice, and innovation. These are only some of the problems with the TPP's copyright enforcement provisions. They would be harmful for everyone, except for companies that use these policies to suppress innovative competitors or to criminalize sharing. Instead of spending their resources to create new products that respect the internet and new technologies, they're lobbying for policies that would hinder and break them. Severe copyright policies restrict our right to share, modify, and experiment with content and technology. Innovation cannot thrive without these freedoms. Internet users need to know what is going on in these secret trade negotiations. Internet users have a right to participate in this powerful international deal that will impact millions of lives for decades to come. Let's show our policymakers that we won't let backroom trade deals determine what we can do with our technology. Let's show them that we, the users, are unified against corporate efforts to restrict our rights. The internet is ours. It's up to us to defend it.
What is the TPP? The average person has never heard of it, and most of those who have couldn't tell you what it is. That's no accident. The TPP, aka the Trans-Pacific Partnership, is a trade deal that's been negotiated in secret for years now. The deal encompasses the US, Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. A lot of people are going to be affected by this, but for some reason, the public is not allowed to see what's in it. In fact, many of the lawmakers which are about to vote on this deal haven't even read it themselves. Those who have are forbidden to expose what it contains. If that strikes you as fishy, you're not alone. We, the people, don't get a word to say about the TPP, but multinational corporations do. There are 600 corporate representatives participating in these closed-door negotiations. Obviously, these representatives are looking after their employers' interests, not ours. Though the public doesn't have access to the full text of this agreement, the contents of leaked drafts make it pretty obvious why this is being pushed through in such a sneaky way. Now, you might have heard some people focus on the probability that the TPP will cause the U.S. economy to lose jobs, much like NAFTA did, only worse. Though this concern may be valid, it's hardly the most dangerous part of the agreement. The real danger lies in the way that this agreement subverts the sovereignty of nations. The TPP would create a system of shadowy trade tribunals which would allow companies to override and nullify laws in any member country. These tribunals are extrajudicial. Their authority is outside and above national justice systems. The arbitrators are unelected and completely unaccountable to the people. The laws which will be subject to this new agreement include, but are not limited to, intellectual property rights, food and product safety, environmental standards, and just about any regulation that may affect the way companies do business. Under the TPP, if a country passes a law to protect its citizens or reduce pollution in a particular sector, the multinational corporation which is affected by that law can take that country to a tribunal. The ruling will be legally binding. It doesn't matter what the people voted for. An example of what this would look like can be found in Uruguay, which has been sued by the Philip Morris Tobacco Company. You see, Uruguay passed a law requiring particularly aggressive warning labels on cigarettes. These warning labels have been very effective. Smoking in Uruguay has declined by about 4% annually. Obviously, that's bad for business. The fact that intellectual property rights are covered by the TPP has grave implications for the future of the internet. Under this agreement, companies claiming to be harmed by lenient copyright enforcement would have a backdoor means to push new draconian regulations on every participating country. This would bypass normal legislative processes completely. Remember SOPA? Under the TPP, they wouldn't even have to pass a new law. Unpopular measures like this could be imposed through a ruling. Politicians wouldn't have to risk anything. Don't live in one of the countries implicated in the TPP? Have no fear. Chances are they're cooking up something for you as well. The TPP is only one of several alphabet soup trade agreements currently in the works. The TTIP, aka the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, would extend the system of trade tribunals to the entire EU. And make no mistake, there's more to come. This isn't about trade. This isn't about jobs. This is about power. Power that is being covertly shifted farther and farther away from the people. Beautiful, isn't it, this rare show of bipartisanship we're seeing? Doesn't it just give you the warm and fuzzies? Who would have guessed that the same Republicans who shut down the government over Obamacare would rally so enthusiastically to ram Obama trade down our throats? It appears that those who line their pockets are in agreement on this one. It isn't enough for the corporate ruling class to have the politicians in their pocket. Now they want the ability to bypass elections and constitutions completely. How does that make you feel? Well, don't waste your time telling me. The politicians who are pushing this bill have names and addresses. Look them up. Give them a ring. Rattle their cages a bit. There's a time and a place for politeness. This is not one of them. If you're a resident of any of the countries involved in a TTP or the TTIP, now is the time to put pressure on the walking haircuts presiding over your particular region. Let them know that you know what they're up to. Make it clear that you will hold them personally responsible if they don't back out. These trade agreements are just the beginning. They'll take this as far as you let them. This message resonates with you, spread it if you want.
You guys can check Storm Clouds Gathering out over on YouTube, and I suggest you do check out Storm Clouds Gathering. And there's one more piece of audio which I have to find for you really quick because I want to let it play for you. But as I look it up, the reason I bring the TPP up, okay, is because the TPP is not being passed right now. That's not what's being passed. It's fast track authority for the TPP. See, the TPP is so effed up that they know that if it actually was debated upon, if senators and congressmen had to debate this on the floor of the House, if this had to be talked about, if the general public got a chance to see what was in this thing during committee meetings, which if it was all open and everything was above board and A-OK, then you would think that there wouldn't be a problem with it being open. And yet they have to do it in secret. Now, if they have to do it in secret, there's got to be a reason why they have to do it in secret. And there is. Because if it was out in the open, it would never pass. That's how bad it is. I'm not kidding. It would, think about it. If it was all above board and it didn't affect you negatively, they would just do it. So really quick, here's the last 2-minute piece of audio for you, and then I want to get Kev, Marty, and Nano's opinions on the TPP, especially Nano, because she's stuck here in one of the countries. And by the way, boys, you heard them say that it connects up to the EU and everything else and those other crap. So the tribunal will be coming after you guys over in Glasgow too. So hold on. Here's the last 2 minutes. It talks about them trying to sneak it through under the TAA. Check it out.
You may have heard about the failed attempt to pass fast-track authority for the TPP in the House on Friday, June 12th. The public applied pressure, and they backed down. You may have assumed that we would have a few months of breathing room before they made another attempt. However, it turns out that Congress isn't even going to wait a full week for round 2. According to Senator Jeff Sessions, there is an upcoming vote on Tuesday, June 17th for a bill called the TAA. Hidden inside the TAA is a provision which would grant the president fast-track authority on any and all trade agreements for a period of 6 years. This would inherently include the TPP, TTIP, and TISA. If you don't know what the TTP or the TTIP are, or why they're so dangerous, watch the TPP, What You're Not Being Told. If fast track is granted for 6 years, whoever wins the next presidential election would inherit this power, and would therefore be able to pass a whole slew of despicable treaties which consolidate corporate sovereignty while nullifying what little remains of national sovereignty.
Any question why the GOP is backing it? Anyway, let it finish.
These traitors are hoping you're not paying attention. Prove them wrong. Leading up to the vote on the TPP on June 12th, you spooked them, and the House voted against fast track even though the Republicans had calculated that they had enough votes. Time to rattle their cages again. Remember, these walking haircuts have names, addresses, phone numbers, Facebook pages, and Twitter accounts. Time to make it abundantly clear that you are watching which way they vote, and that you will hold them personally responsible for any support for any legislation which grants fast track authority to anyone. There are a lot of ways to go about making this clear. Some of them are diplomatic, others less so. Be creative. If you are watching this video at a later date, consider this a point of reference demonstrating how they operate. These traitors are sneaky. They will try again. Stay vigilant.
I agree, ladies and gentlemen. We need to stay vigilant. So you need to light up the phone numbers over at Capitol Hill, the emails. You need to get angry. When you show that you're paying attention is when they start to get fearful. The only time they can pass this stuff and get away with it is when you're not paying attention, when you're not enlightened, when you're not plugged into what's actually going on, when you're worried about the NAACP president being a white girl pretending to be black. Who gives a shit? That doesn't affect your life one iota. Okay? Not at all. Why do you think they're focusing on that? You notice what's going on? They're giving away your sovereignty to multinational corporations. See, fast-track authority means that they don't have to debate it because it would never pass. So they give the president the authority to just fast-track stuff. And guess what? This goes on for 6 years. How many years until the GOP president? Let's see. The election would be in 2016, so he wouldn't be sworn until 2017. Oh, that's what, 2 years? About a year and a half, 2 years? Oh, and this thing would cover pretty much that president's first term. So what if a GOP guy got in? You know, because they play left, right. It's two puppets on the same puppet master's hands. But they've had 8 years of a Democrat. Now they get a Republican in, quote unquote, right? One of the GOP. Oh, no wonder they would back this. Because they'd have power to fast track whatever they wanted to. Oh, so it's not really about freedom or doing the proper thing, is it, ladies and gentlemen? It's more about manipulation and control and what they can gain for themselves at your expense. Think about it. Light up Congress like a Christmas tree. Call their phones, email, melt the phone lines. Nano, what do you think? You're here in America with a K with me. What do you think?
Well, having done a little bit of research, I don't know if you heard our last show just like a couple minutes ago. It looks to me like Obama is going to get what he wants. This is why he's working so hard on this. And his coup is he's going to hand us over to the UN, to the globalists. I mean, I think that's exactly why they hired this guy, and this is exactly what he's doing. I didn't realize this, but doing some research on TPP is it's actually a living agreement, and they can change the text of the so-called agreement after it's gone into effect.
That's what I meant
scary.
before, That's what I meant before when I said, hey,
Yeah.
what happens if they decide in one of these little closed-door room meetings that, hey, you guys can't have guns anywhere? Or you can't. How about if they say, you know what? We don't want you to grow your own food anymore because there could be bad stuff in the air because, the air is polluted and stuff. So you have to buy certain types of seeds from Monsanto. And the food police are going to come out and we're going to make sure you can't grow, or you can't even grow. You have to go to certain stores to get your food. If we catch you growing your own food, you'll be arrested. And you're like, oh, please, the cops in the military.
That's exactly right. I mean,
now
as far as I can tell, this just looks like another nail in our prison coffin.
But you would,
that's how I say it.
You would think they wouldn't enforce
all of it. Immigration.
We lost Nano. You would think that they wouldn't enforce it, but the cops in this country don't have to. What did the one thing say? And I didn't play the one. I have like a 15-minute piece of audio I didn't play. I played it last week when I broke the TPP down. It's enforceable by private corporations, boys. Enforceable by... Read that to be like Blackwater, Z, whatever the hell, Academy, whatever they call themselves now, whatever they've changed their name to for the 15th time. Imagine if they say that, and I know there's some debate of whether or not Monsanto owns them, but say Monsanto owns them. What happens if Monsanto wants to enforce its ruling, or its, whatever, this tribunal has a ruling and they want to enforce it?
Popeye, is this not like global fascism? The merger of governments and corporations in our faces?
It's exactly fascism, Kev. I mean, they're going to send out private corporations to enforce this treaty on you. So does that mean the military and the cops don't even have any say in that? I mean, this just has so many implications. Anyway, break sneaking up. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. So, getting right back into it. TPP. I want to stay focused on this for a few more minutes because it has so many far-reaching implications, and it's not just the TPP. As you heard Storm Clouds Gathering mention, that was the last two clips I played. Go check them out on YouTube. They do good videos. And I've played their stuff on air before. They mentioned that just because you're not listed in the TPP, maybe your country isn't one of the 12 countries, it doesn't mean that it's not going to affect you because there's other things in the work. Now, Kev, when it was playing, as we always do, ladies and gentlemen, because we're in a group Skype call, obviously, while we're broadcasting, and we chat with each other, and we're not only are we having this stream of consciousness on air while we're talking, but we also have this secondary, like, behind-the-scenes stream of consciousness going on. And Kev brought up an article from the EU. Now, you guys actually, this is the same thing. This is what he was talking about, how you're going to be subject to the same BS tribunal in the United Nations for all of this crap at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And we've just had the G7 summit recently, obviously. And I remember sitting here watching the walking, talking sausage give his press conference, David Cameron, and he was uttering on about a TTIP deal. Now, that's the one that you heard Storm Clouds Gathering mentioning here. And it says here that basically within 6 months, Europe and the US are going to be tied together by these two deals. And just to read a couple of paragraphs here, it says, broad agreement on a controversial trade deal between Europe and the United States could be completed by the end of this year. The G7 leaders have announced as they outlined a string of initiatives designed to boost growth, tackle climate change, and check the Russian ambitions in the Ukraine. Wrapping up a 2-day summit of the world leaders in Bavaria, David Cameron and the German Chancellor Merkel claimed the meeting had put new impetus into the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, TTIP, that has been bogged down by disagreements between the US and European negotiators. Now, encouragingly, guys, there's an actual petition that's going about in Europe, and I believe there's something like, there's over 2 million people in Europe that are aware of this going on, and there are protests against it.
And it has the same far-reaching implications as the TPP?
It's exactly the same, and it's just to interlock the two so that corporations over there will be able to take countries from over here to secret tribunals.
Dude, imagine that. Think about that for a second. Like, we get a perfect example is here. There's states passing laws, or people trying to get their states to pass laws for GMO labeling. Can you imagine the state of Florida passes a law that says you have to label everything, anything that's GMO, it has to be labeled, and people have to be able to tell that, it doesn't matter if it's a fruit or if it's something made with GMO fruit. It does not matter. It has to be labeled. What happens when Monsanto says, well, that hurts our bottom line, because if people know that there's GMO food in it, they might not buy the food because there's fear-mongering on the internet. Well, a tribunal could buy that. And then they could go after the state of Florida and say that you have to get rid of that. Not only do you have to get rid of that law, so you lose that freedom, or you lose that protection, I should say, that the state says, hey, look, we want our citizens to be able to know what's in the food. Not only do you lose that protection from them and the right to know what's in your food, then the state gets hit with a fine. So now you have to pay the scumbag corporation reparations? This is absurd. I'll say this again. I said this last Thursday. So people are clear. In the history of this country, back in the day, when I say back in the day, I mean when the country was founded, in order to have a corporation, you had to prove your corporation served the country and the citizens, meaning it benefited them. If it did not, you didn't get a charter. Look where we are now. It's the corporations making the rules. What did Mussolini call that, Kev? Fascism?
Exactly. That's exactly what he described it as, the merger of government and corporations. What else can you describe this as, guys? I mean, Popeye, I think it was your show the other night. I heard you going over a ridiculous scenario where maybe Joe's wife came across a kind of recipe on the internet. She tells somebody else, they go and cook it up, publish it, whatever. Police at the door. Intellectual property. Bang. Cuffs on. FEMA camp.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, say Marty and Mrs. Joe Joseph were swapping recipes, right? Because maybe Marty likes to bake, and so does Mrs. Joe Joseph. And she says, Marty, I have this awesome recipe for brownies. And Marty's like, you know what? My family would love brownies. That would be awesome. I'll make them. Right? So all she does is email him and I use Marty as an example because he's international, so it makes an even bigger offense. So she emails him from here in America, right, the recipe. Well, suddenly the copyright police find out, because remember, your ISP is monitoring everything you do now. And by the way, they already have that capability, so don't think that they couldn't do that in the future when they can already do it now. So they read your email, they monitor it, they know you sent this recipe, right? So Marty, you get the recipe. You're in trouble. Now, you and her can both be, and it's not like your local government. It's from these tribunals. I mean, what's the punishment? What do you get, like a $500 fine for sharing a $2 recipe that she purchased online and wanted to share with you?
Yeah. It is absolutely disgusting, really. I think it's the end of a lot of people's freedoms and just the right to actually be able to share stuff between each other and stuff. It's all, like you say, it's all about these corporations getting involved and seeing what they can actually make off it. I know that there was some of the United Nations members that came out saying they were opposed to this whole TPP thing, but I don't know. I think this is a bit of a stage, really, and I think they're going to try and sell it to us at this post-2015 Development Agenda Summit that's being held in New York between the 25th and 27th of September. And they're saying that this is a high-level meeting of the General Assembly. And I think that they're going to try and sell something to us, because the slogan for this event is 2015, time for global action for people and planet. So, yeah.
Well, there's a question in the chat that goes right up with this. It says, what about if I watch a movie on Putlocker, which is one of those websites? It's like streaming. First of all, the website won't be there. It'll be gone. Or your access to that website will be blocked. You'll be filtered. You won't be able to get to it. Because under the agreement, let's say that an online streaming service of whatever like that, like one of these, places like Putlocker or one of these other sites that people upload videos to, like shows and movies and stuff. Let's say that's in a country that's not affected by TPP. Let's say it's in some little island nation somewhere that's not affected by any of these BS treaties. Your country still is. So they'll just put a filter. You won't be able to get to it. It's that simple. It's as simple as adding that URL, that domain name, to a list of filtered stuff.
Yeah.
It's that simple. They put it in a little box, like in Windows or any other, whatever, even I'm sure if they used a Mac, there's probably a Mac-based program with just a little box where you fill in the info and hit enter. And that's it. It's that simple with the click of a mouse. Now, Marty, you're a DJ, so you could be affected by this too. The European version of this that could come hit you. I mean, how insane is that? If say you're doing a set, say you get hired to go play a club somewhere, dude, you could get nailed for every time you sample a piece of music. How many times do you sample stuff? Sometimes when you really have some creative stuff. How many separate songs have you sampled to make one of your own mixes? Like, what's the most you've ever sampled? 5, 10 pieces of music?
It's really hard to keep count, to be honest. You're always using different samples, whether it's a kick drum or a snare sample. Everything pretty much comes from a sample. You might make the thing from scratch, but unless you're messing with drum machines and thousands of pounds worth of synthesizers and stuff, that sounds pretty much come from somewhere. And that's the thing, like you say, it's just a threat to everybody. It just takes the fun out of everything, and it's kind of became like that already with this sound recognition software and YouTube and SoundCloud and all the kind of stuff. You can't even throw a mix CD up now that you've done because some company's claiming rights to it, and nobody's allowed to hear your mix thing now. So it's ridiculous, especially when you've paid for the track.
I totally agree, Kev. What say you?
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking, we could have a right problem on our hands. Hosts, listeners, everyone in the alternative media. How many times do we go in there at nights and decode stories from the mainstream written by somebody else? Well, how long are we going to be able to do that? Because that's going to be somebody else's actual intellectual property. You see how they can come after every single facet of stuff on the internet, folks? Just something that's running through my mind there, Nano.
And, the other thing I'm thinking about is from a technical point of view or creative point of view, you're an artist or an engineer, and take what you just said and then add that on to people who do software development or people who want to create some kind of solution for something in another country. How difficult is that going to be, if not impossible? How much is this going to shut everybody's creativity down? Which is, I actually think, is what they want. Ultimately, we just want you guys that survive, the chemtrail spraying and the poison food to be quiet. We don't want to hear from you.
And Popeye, this is bizarro land. I mean, it's probably going to get to the stage where, well, we're doing this on a Behringer mic, so really it doesn't belong to us anyway. It's Behringer's property.
Yeah, they'll say that the audio that we create, they'll say it doesn't really belong to you. It belongs to the company that made the microphone that picks up your voice. And then, Marty, none of your original work that you've made, none of your mixes and stuff, none of that belongs to you. Even though you spent hundreds of hours as a DJ, none of that belongs. It belongs to the company that made the mixer that you used to cut it up.
Yeah, and especially if you look at the definition for intellectual property, according to Google, it says it refers to creations of the mind, such as inventions, literacy, and artistic works, designs, and symbols. So, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, but the question is, how broad can that be interpreted? Nano?
I think it can be pretty broad. If we look at Google and what they're going to be our probably one and only search engine, and we're going to start to see the world through Google's eyes and become Google World. They say, don't they, that they have access to everything, they own everything, it's theirs. How much, even writing emails to somebody, it's like, as far as they're concerned, it's theirs. They own it. All these corporations that are using Google to run their corporations for free, think about that as well. That's pretty scary.
And just before we go to Marty, I think, Marty, you've got one here. They're trying to program us with this, folks, because there's a sitcom right now called Silicon Valley. There's a big behemoth kind of tech company in that called Huli. Now, they're basically the Google. and there's a wee startup company, and right now they're in the middle of litigation, and the argument is that Huli are trying to claim that this software compression that this startup company have designed themselves in their own time with their own minds actually belongs to them. And they've got a case because one afternoon in the show, when the guy's laptop was in at the actual repair shop, he dared to test it using the Turing test to test how quick it was, how good it was. And because of that one test, that gives Huli the right to claim that everything they came up with that software is their intellectual property because it was done on their time, on their machine. Marty boy.
Wow, and just to throw another example out there for this intellectual property stuff, if you think about Facebook and all these third-party photo apps, well, just go and look at the terms and conditions. When you actually upload a photograph of yourself or your family or whatever, you actually lose the rights to it. It now becomes property of Facebook or whichever third-party company app it is, and that's quite scary. I think we've seen several cases in which people's photographs have ended up on T-shirts and billboards without the say-so of that person, and they don't have a leg to stand on because of these things that have been written into the terms and conditions and the whole corruption of everything. But just to round that off, I think this is just the start and a way for them to come after everything. Like you say, one day you'll be covering a news article and they'll say, actually, you don't have the right to cover that because that came from so-and-so, and you'll just be shut down.
And the other thing I'd like to add here is that I think so many of us are inspired by whatever you want to call inspirational, spiritual, whatever. We all seem to, we're humans and we're connected by this high, I call it higher voice, higher source. So are these freaks saying that they own that too? That it's like, oh, well, now that's ours. And what I don't want to see is I don't want to see that shut down. That is everything we are, everything. It is what makes us human. And it just, God, it breaks my heart. This is the part that just.
Well, that's what they're doing. They're breaking. They want to stop communication on all levels. But, us talking, not just that, but creatively too. But think about it. There's people all over the world right now. I mean, you guys are over in Glasgow. You guys are over in the fascist EU. We're over in the fascist United States, right? And we're thousands of miles apart. And it's like we're all hanging out in the same room, having this epic stream of consciousness. And people all around the world, because of the internet, are able to hear this and be enlightened by it. And then not just because, we're, oh my God, they're 100% right. It's not even that. If they get to hear a different opinion than what is comes across the idiot box, they want that stopped. That's a threat to the powers that shouldn't be. That's why I say we've already won. Newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, we've already won. People are like, oh, no, we haven't. Yeah, we have. You see the way they're reacting? They're reacting because they're freaking out because they know the end, their end, is inevitable. They're going to become irrelevant. Mankind will evolve. And they are trying to do everything in their power to retard that evolution. That's why they're doing what they do. That's how I see it anyway. Nano?
Popeye, that's exactly how I see it. And I think that my biggest hope for us is the spiritual connection that we have that always gives us these alternative behaviors, thinking, solutions that we don't even know we're going to do. You can't AI that because I don't know what it's going to tell me. When I meditate, I know a lot of us meditate. When I meditate, I go to a different spot. I walk away even 10 minutes later thinking, oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, well, that's awesome. So I go do that. And that's what all of that connection is and it's about. I don't think they like that because I think it does something to their pot. I think it does something to their the pot at the boiling of their control. It throws it off. It throws a mixture in there that they can't, like you said, they can't control.
Well, they're like bullies. If they don't make themselves look big and scary,
yeah,
and in their case, needed by us to protect them, or to protect us from the boogeyman or the big bad wolf. Okay, if that fake, facade of power, that idea that's not real, it's permeated into us through our skin. It permeates us because that's what we're just hit with it. It's like saturation, 150% out of the television, the radio. Fear, 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 fear. Be afraid. Be afraid. You need the government. When everybody realizes that we've won, which like I said, we've already won. It's just mankind hasn't realized it yet. And the only reason why we haven't realized it yet en masse is because of the retardation, and I'm not using that as a pejorative. I mean the literal definition of the word, the slowing down of humanity via media, via mind control, via all of it, music, movies, all of this. And the I don't want to say the alternative media, but whatever, this new wave, this secondary stream of consciousness, this holistic stream of consciousness, I should call it, that's come about in the past. It's been around for a while, but I would say it's gotten prolific in the past 10 years. They can't stop it. It's mankind awakening. And they realize this, and they're freaking out. And as soon as mankind and humanity realizes its own true potential, it's over for these douchebags. Nano, Marty?
I was just going to say real quick that I think it's so important in these times to carry on fighting for the freedom of speech and the freedom of the internet, because I think these powers that be and these scumbags have actually realised how successful alternative media and how people have been at actually waking people up. Now, if you think that they get their own way and they just get a whole chokehold on the whole internet and freedom of speech and alternative news is banned, you can just imagine what could happen. With the scumbags' plans and stuff. Then think 20, 30 years down the line, we'll have actually gone 10 steps backwards in terms of open minds and stuff with the younger generation. So it is important at this time to keep on fighting.
I agree. And Michio Kaku even said the only thing in danger of going extinct is dictatorships. And I think I would love, again, to be a fly on the wall when they AI these questions to these machines. And if the powers that be realize that it comes out, it's just like that movie where it says the only way to win the game is not to play the game. The only way to win this is to not to be a dictator. And I don't even think, Popeye, we can help what we're doing at this point either. I think we are in such a different consciousness that I don't even think I can stop it. I can't make it go away. I can't make it go to sleep anymore. We are already so involved, entrenched, and on down this road, we can't stop it.
You can't stop it. Once you're I guess for lack of a better term, plugged in the way you are, or perhaps not plugged in, more so just the veil's been lifted off your eyes. See, unlike in the Matrix movie, there's only a certain point that you can go back. And I know Cypher, when he goes back and he's sitting with Agent Smith and he's eating the steak and he says, I know the steak is fake and it's not real, but whatever. There are people, to me that's representative of people that know what's going on, but it's just willful ignorance. But there comes a certain time when you can't have that anymore. At least for me, I could never go back. As soon as I realized what was going on, I couldn't turn my back. I couldn't go away. It also depends on the person, but I know it's going to come to a certain point where people aren't going to have a choice. They're going to have no other option but to come to this logical conclusion. And the only ones that won't will be the ones that, I guess, when they talk about, I don't want to say ascension, but whatever they call it, the enlightenment of humanity. They say some people won't be able to handle it or whatever. I guess maybe some people won't look at it the same way, and there might be some violence from some people if they don't understand that humanity needs to take this next level, and they look at things differently, which is kind of what you see going on now. But I honestly think that it'll come to a point that, like that 100th monkey syndrome, where everybody will kind of get it. I think might be a few stragglers here or there, but I think pretty much across the board, humanity will kind of get it. we all kind of agreed at one point that murder was a bad thing. I don't really think you need laws to say. I mean, yeah, it's against the law, but you know what I mean? Like humanity on a level, I guess that, you know, when people do murder, you could say, well, they've crossed that line, but that's a case-by-case basis. But humanity-wide, we probably, and I'm pretty sure of this, we probably bashed each other's heads in with rocks and clubs a little bit more often over stupid things, you know, thousands of years ago than we did today. So, you know, somewhere along the line, humanity kind of evolved and said, okay, we need to grow up a little bit. So I think when we have this massive transition, it'll be like that eventually. It's just we have to keep pushing it, because they're going to try to put this different energy out, the vibration of fear, to throw off that vibration of love and knowledge and light. I know it all sounds new agey, but it's not.
Yeah, fear and division as well. They've got to keep us divided and fighting amongst each other. That's the great thing about TFR and all you guys. You know, it doesn't matter what background you come from, your religious beliefs, anything. We're all trying to work together for the greater good of humanity. It doesn't matter what you believe, because these scumbags have an agenda.
Well,
yeah, and I still think that our big hope is with our youth. They're not going to tolerate this. They're going to look at this and say this is insanely stupid and we don't want to play the game, and they'll go around it. It's like you said, 100 monkeys. Well, we probably have a gabillion of monkeys, and they've been trying a really long time to eliminate all of us, to get us to be dumbed down, and we're still here. We're still talking.
But see, like, how long have you guys been doing this? Let me see. We got probably like about a minute and a half for a break. I've been doing this since like 2006.
I've been doing this since the 70s.
Okay. Now, wouldn't you say that there's a huge difference between when you first started talking to people about this to now? Like now, like I hear random conversations in the grocery store about GMO food and stuff, and I'll look over and it's just two like average Joes being like, no, make sure that the hens or the chickens rather were taken care of, and they weren't, you know, it's cage free, and that they weren't fed antibiotics or anything else, or, you know, non-GMO seed. And I'm like, wow, people are paying attention. And it's not just that now, it's other stuff too. So, you know, this stream of consciousness is getting wider and more powerful and being picked up by more antenna by the day, because our bodies are like antenna, ladies and gentlemen. The break's sneaking up, so I'll get into what I mean by that on the other side, and that'll transition us into the second half of the broadcast, the reality that we live in, and where it comes from and how it's created. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you won't be disappointed. And again, if you don't know the Kev Baker Show, tune in an hour before I go live and an hour before Joe goes live, 5 days a week. Monday through Friday, or excuse me, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, and then he does Freaky Friday with me. Stay tuned, 3 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com and popeyeradio.com. And don't forget, you can also check out all of my YouTube archives over at DTRH Radio Archives on YouTube. That's DTRH, Delta Tango Romeo Hotel Radio Archives over on YouTube. Check it out. Before we get back into the discussion, because I know where this is going to go, the nature of reality, how we create our own reality, this is going to get a bit woo. It's almost like we're bringing Freaky Friday over to the Tuesday edition of DTRH for a little bit. But before I do that, I want Kev and Marty, if you want to plug anything as well, I want the two of you to shamelessly plug your website, Kev, that you diligently work on, and any Facebook groups and your YouTube stuff, because you certainly put a lot of effort and energy and love into it, and you deserve to get a shameless plug. So go ahead, brother.
There's a fine line between effort and click whoring, Popeye, but thank you very much, man. But the website, I'm always working on that. I'm learning, as you know. I'm coming to you for a bit of advice tomorrow, some code, kind of get it looking a bit better. But that's kevbakershow.com. And then I'm shameless on Facebook as well, but one of the main groups is TruthTube451, and that's all one word, and that's the same as the YouTube channel. And Marty, he's also got YouTube stuff.
Yeah, that's over on DJS NorthWest, over on YouTube.
Say it again one more time, Marty.
DJS DJS NorthWest, all as one word, over on YouTube. You can pretty much find a link in the KBS shows at the bottom there that Kev puts in, which I appreciate.
Good stuff. So, gentlemen, let's get into the nature of... Actually, before we get into that, one more thing, Kev. You brought this up earlier. I just want to throw this out there one more time. With the TPP thing, you know how YouTube attacks us now? Can you imagine what it would be like under TPP? I mean, what's KBS? Nobody would hear it. You wouldn't have your channel. DTRH wouldn't exist. We'd say something that would piss somebody off, and it would be gone, show removed. Remember the one I had about the internet? The irony of that show is it was a show about the freedom of the internet being at stake, and they removed it from YouTube, and I had to fight to get it back. And then they tried to take out my channel, and they punished me for like a week. Yeah. Anyway. So just imagine what that would be like under the TPP. Absolutely abhorrent. It sucks now. Can you imagine what it would be like there? And by the way, let me just throw this out there too. If you're a YouTuber, and Kev can attest to this, if you have RT videos on your channel,
get it down.
Yeah. Red alert. Remove them. I still have like 2 channels I have to go through, but I've gone through most of my channels and removed any RT videos. Some of them with like 100,000, 200,000 views. The one I had gotten hit for had over 1 million views, Kev, and I got a copyright strike. So
what happened? Backup channels out there, you need to be careful, because I actually lost access to my main channel last week. And I don't know if you noticed, but Marty certainly noticed at one point there was a kind of glitch on YouTube where it was rejecting large swathes of videos that had been up for a while, and they were deemed inappropriate content. Now, it was obviously some kind of bug or another, and I went to log on after a show with Nano one night to my usual TruthTube 451 channel, and I was told to give my mobile phone number. I had to verify myself, and then I was met with the red message of death telling me that I'd received a strike because of this on one of my other channels. Now, Popeye, they'd given me the 3 strikes because of them, because there was over like 10 of these things, and I got locked out. Now, thankfully, I managed to appeal that, but it took maybe, 12 hours for me to get back into my channel. They are getting ruthless, man.
Yeah, but why did you get locked out? What was the excuse?
Because there were so many of these videos that had been rejected, and I hadn't actually taken them off one of my backup channels. I never even checked the thing.
What were they under? What was the copyright?
It was deemed inappropriate content. And Marty, you remember when you've got a playlist with all the shows. It was decimated one day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it kept getting up to near the 300 mark, and then just kept going down. And I'm thinking, we're doing shows every day, and it's going down. And then eventually I noticed that we'd lost about, I'd say over 40 of the shows that were uploaded to YouTube and people did get to listen to, but all of a sudden they were just dropping like flies. And it just makes you realize what's this inappropriate content that they're talking about,
Well, that's how they took my video down, the one about the internet freedom. It was when I had the 2 hackers on, and they were talking about what the FCC wanted to do and all this other stuff and all these secret rules they were trying to pass. And then I uploaded it. And all of a sudden, even they were like, wow, that's kind of weird. We've never seen anything like that. And it was just, and it wasn't like it was copyrighted. They said it violated, what was it? Spamming? They said it was spam or deceptive material. That's what they said it was.
Yeah, I think
that's deceptive. Spam or commercially deceptive.
Yeah, I remember seeing that on some of them too.
And I asked, I said, how is it? Well, I went at them. I said, how the hell is this commercially deceptive? I said, I challenge you to listen to that whole show and find one commercial in there at all. I actually removed them. I said, so I don't sell anything. I do my show for free. I expect this back. And because I went at them like that, they punished me and took away my full upload capability for a week. And then once it was straightened out, they were like, oh, it's our bad. And they gave it back to me. They even sent me one message saying, we reviewed it and you're still wrong. And I was like, wrong. I flipped out on them. And I just kept bombarding them.
Oh, come on, Popeye, let's get it right. It was a robot that told you were wrong.
Oh, exactly. I'm sure it wasn't even a live human being at this point anymore. Remember back in the day when we used to say that, by the way, Kev? When we used to say that about YouTube, and people would be like, you guys are crazy conspiracy theorists. There's no computer programs that do that. Now they openly admit that it's all computerized.
Exactly, man. It's mad how many times we're right for people that are deemed crazy loon balls. Go figure.
Yeah, I agree. So, with that, let's shift into the nature of reality. I know you guys like to go into the woo. And it's not really, I don't consider this woo. It's not really woo. It's actually how things are. So, I want to discuss the media for a second. And I say that because I can use an example from hour one. This NAACP chick, I don't know what you guys see over in Glasgow, but have you guys seen this this quote-unquote scandal?
Yeah, I've seen it, man.
Okay, so there's a white chick who identifies as a black woman, whatever. The media is focusing on that. We already know why, because the TPP, other things they don't want you to know about. You see how they make that the narrative? It's really easily done. All they have to do is pick a subject. It could be that. It could be dust collecting on a shelf. It doesn't matter. All they have to do is pick the subject. And then the way the news media attacks it. Now, you have to have one side that attacks it, from the right, quote unquote, one side that attacks it from the left. And then you have CNN that comes in and does like a middle of the ground type thing, but then steers it in a certain direction depending. Right? And they create the narrative. It's all like a live action play, guys. And you watch this go on. You see this going on. You see this whole thing happening right in front of your face. And the general public doesn't understand it. You have to have that's why I'd like to do my woodshedding episodes, because this is one of the things I break down is how the whole play works. I show the scenery, which is what you're not supposed to show, right? And I show how everything works. I show the background of the magic trick. But that's how they frame the whole argument. And people that the general public will say that are not awake yet, the people that are still plugged into the matrix, quote unquote, they buy this story. And that's how they manipulate people's reality, because our bodies are antenna, ladies and gentlemen. Our bodies are antenna. Your DNA helix, if you look at it, is an antenna. We send and receive. And we pick up the vibrational frequency from them that they're putting out. Whatever they want us to be programmed with, because we're biological computers. And then, even if you don't know it, it's there subconsciously. And then we push this out, this energy. We create the reality that we all live in. It's that simple. Picture yourself like a movie projector being fed a movie, and you're projecting it out. And not only are you projecting it out, so is everybody else. And you're also all living in that projected reality. That's what we create our own reality means. And quantum physics proves this with the whole double slit experiment. Marty, and then Kev, thoughts?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think they sometimes refer to DNA as a fractal antenna in terms of electromagnetic fields and stuff like that. And there's been a few theoretical physicists that have actually said that bacteria might actually transmit some of these signals as well. So very fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. And when I think about reality and why we're here and what we are, I think the best way that makes sense to me anyway is if we just think of ourselves as computers. We're just biological computers. We're born into this world with a basic 5 sense BIOS, a basic input-output system, the same as a computer. We've got our touch, smell, taste. What else we got? We've got sight, we've got hearing. Our 5 senses, that's the BIOS we come here with. But like any computer, guys, we need programs. We can't do much with just that basic BIOS. Yeah, we're switched on and we're there. And we download stuff from the subconscious and the ether, shall we say. Think of it as the cloud. That's where we could say we get some of our thoughts and ideas from. But they're determined to program us just exactly the way they want us. And that's why we see an attack on our senses via the media, via the food, via the chemtrails, via the vaccines. They're literally programming us from absolutely every angle into good, obedient little robots, little computers that they can manage on a greater network. And we see all that coming together. That's what this globalization's all about. It all ties back into one another, but if you just think of it that way, I don't know if that works with you guys, Popeye, a computer where you've got the brain, that's just basically the CPU, and it comes with the BIOS, and then, well, you can take it from there.
Well, that's what it is. We're biological computers, and if you have to understand this conversation, by the way, you have to have a basic understanding of quantum physics and a few other things, which I have done plenty of shows on. I know Kev has. We've done Freaky Friday episodes on this. And the reason I say that, because the double slit experiment, they realized that at the end of it, they realized that the particles would appear in the exact spot that they measured for them, meaning they created that reality. They made the particle appear there. So that's how we create our own reality, ladies and gentlemen. If we do that at the quantum level, okay, if we do that at that microscopic, very tiny level, we're creating our own reality from the ground up, right? I mean, everybody understands that things are made of atoms, right? So the radio that's sitting on your counter right now that you're listening to us on, or the computer or whatever, the smartphone device, whatever, tablet, the router that's pushing the Wi-Fi across the house, all of this stuff is created by atoms. You can't see said atoms because they're tiny, quantum level. You can't see them, but you know and accept that things are made up of them. Well, what happens if there's things going on at this level, this quantum level, that do affect your reality at this macro level, this huge level that we live in? And it does. We create our own reality, ladies and gentlemen. We do that. So now they have this live action play where they have Rachel Maddow or Sean Hannity or Rush Retard Limbaugh or whatever moron they want to roll out. Okay? And those people are willing participants, by the way. They're sellouts. Some of them buy into the crap that they talk about because you need somebody. Look, the best way to pull something off is to actually have somebody that believes it. Because, an actor can have a bad day and you maybe you see a movie, but how many times do they do a take? Because maybe the actor was having a bad day and it took 15 tries to get one scene to look good. So it's better to actually have a useful idiot, somebody that buys into it. You don't really have to, you just kind of got to steer them and feed them what they need. They'll actually give you a better job of acting. An actor couldn't do a job that Sean Hannity or Rush Limbaugh can do. They actually buy their own crap, but they're still, I have no use for them because some of the things that they say, they have to know that they're just pushing a party line and that it's talking points. So, useful idiot, willful ignorance, sellouts, mouthpieces. They're not real journalists. They're actors in a play trying to get you to think the way that their masters want you to think. They want you trained like a Pavlovian dog, ladies and gentlemen. They want you to drool every time they ring that bell of fear. And when they run out of excuses, well, what do they always fall back on? Because 9/11. Fear. Kev?
Not totally 9/11. That's the one they go back to because that's like a JFK moment. It was a trauma-based mind control event. We can all remember where we were, what we were doing the day of 9/11. And that's because it's seared into our actual brains, folks. That's how emotionally charged that whole event was. Now then, doesn't matter what theory you think for 9/11, but it's in there. 9/11 is definitely a key point that they love to play all the time. I know during leading up to this section, guys, yourselves and Nano were having a really brilliant conversation. And it was about how consciousness is rising right now. And they're determined to keep us in fear, like you say, Popeye, locked to the five senses, when I really do believe that there's something bigger going on a level that possibly we can't even comprehend. And, you know, people said that in 2012 changes would happen. Some people said it would be the end. Anyone who is a bit more discerning realizes when one thing comes to an end, something else starts. And I wonder if we're just moving into place and time and space right now where we're receiving more information actually coming from out there. And if you think about back to the computer, you've got the router, and most of us nowadays are on broadband, on fiber optic. And well, fiber optic, every single bit of information, all those packets of information are coming delivered in packets of light. Now, if you think of that big thing that delivers light every day to this planet, the sun, then you could even factor in something like CERN and take it from a different angle, guys. Possibly they're trying to shield us from information coming from that intergalactic cloud that is the source of all our kind of knowledge and our higher self kind of stuff. Just a thought that's kind of been forming in me.
Well, either way, they want to stop us from enlightening ourselves. It's like I was talking about on Friday night, that all the, you know, the occult, their occult symbolism, the base level thinking, 666, that's what 666 means. It's the number of the beast, of the number of man, not the number of a man, like an antichrist, the number of man, as in mankind, humanity. They look at us like cattle. Zombie movies? Who do you think the dead in The Walking Dead are, ladies and gentlemen? You. You. That's you. They view themselves as the ultimate survivors. They're the ones that survive. You're the Walking Dead, the zombies. That's how they view themselves. It's an insult. Mark Passio and I have discussed this. They view you as the brain-dead zombies because most people are not connected truly to their souls. And you know what? To a large extent, that's not their faults. Every personal responsibility, I agree. Everybody has to have that. But to a large extent, that's not their faults because from the time they were born, they've been programmed. So I don't hold people accountable unless they refuse to wake up or unless they you know, I would rather, instead of being mad or have contempt for humanity, I would rather help humanity reach its potential because I think humanity has way more potential. In fact, I know it does.
And Popeye, it goes beyond the programming because they're even hacking the machine the minute we come into this world with vaccines.
Exactly. That's why they hit the kid. I mean, for a multitude of reasons, but I honestly think that's one of the biggest things, is they want to destroy that wiring. They want to screw it up way beforehand. It's disgusting. They're afraid of you, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes down to it, they're afraid of you. And they project that fear out onto you. They get you to be afraid of the boogeyman. You need us. You need us. You need us. Remember that. How much money and how much time is spent convincing you that you need them? Marty? I mean, I know you guys see it over there. How much time and money is spent convincing you guys that the royal family is still actually relevant?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, it's just sickening, really, the brainwashing and stuff. But I think what people don't realise is, and the point you're trying to make is, that we are their power structure, and not us personally, but everybody. What does it take to hold these big pyramidic power structures up? It takes all the bottom levels, which are the people, the police, the military, the officials, the everyday person in the street. You know, without them, they have no power structure. And I think that's what people don't realise, that we could really pull the rug right from under these elites if we all worked collectively.
Well, exactly. All people need to do is realize their own true potential. That's it. That's it. And there is no one answer, one umbrella answer that, you know, one size fits all thing. People just need to realize that instead of going to some supposed power structure for the answer to things, we have to look to ourselves. And if it doesn't work, picture the picture your country like a human body and each individual person like a cell. So if the cells are acting healthy and communicating properly with one another, the body acts perfectly and is in good health. When the communication between the cells breaks down, that's when you get disease. That's when you get things like cancer. So, just saying.
And Popeye, if you think of cells, they're mainly made up of water. And we've seen the experiments of intention by Dr. Inamoto of what intent can actually do to water. So even the way that we're thinking and feeling, and by keeping us in that fear level, we're actually destroying ourselves from within.
That's why I call what they do the perception deception. Because, see, if they can get you to think the way they think about you, you're putting off that intent. You're damaging yourself and your fellow humans. You're doing their job for them. See, they realize that they actually don't have the power to do all this to all of us themselves. So the only way to do it is to get us to do it to ourselves. I mean, the cops aren't a different breed of humans. They're humans. And they do what they do to their own fellow humans, right? We police ourselves on so many levels. They think about us like cattle, like we're garbage, like mankind is a virus, like your Prince Philip is the one that said it, I think. Yeah, I'll come back as a virus and wipe mankind out because they're a scourge on society.
Oh, let's give them credit, Pop. Only 90% of us.
Oh, I'm sorry. He wants to leave 10%. I'm sure.
You know which 10%.
Yeah, his friends. All the reptiles. All the people that they're going to peel their skin off and they're going to be the reptiles that David Icke's been talking about for 20 years.
Pop, I've heard you saying it before as well. We've done it. Dog tags. That shows you what they think of us, man.
Yes. All the symbolism. I mean, they call, as Mark Passio has said, he was in occult meetings, like, he was at gatherings when he was involved in the dark occult years ago. And he said that he never heard them being these occultists, he never heard them refer to these people, the military and police, as the military and police. He says that they referred to them as their pets or their dogs. I mean, that's how they look at these people. And then they look at us like, again, I said, The Walking Dead. That's why there's this constant zombie meme. That's how they look at us, ladies and gentlemen, and they're putting that out because they need you to think the same way. Is it any coincidence that at the same time the media is saturated with zombie films about mankind being turned into just mass zombies and there's very few people left to survive? Isn't that interesting? I wonder what the percentage rating is. I wonder if it works out to something like 10% of mankind was left alive while 90% turned into zombies. Where have I seen that number ratio before? But is it a coincidence that the zombie meme comes out at the same time they're telling you that mankind is a scourge? It really? Is it a coincidence? Because I don't believe in coincidences, ladies and gentlemen. They're programming you. They're telling you that you're a scourge, you're zombies, you're brainless, you're useless. You should be wiped off the planet and eradicated for the better of mankind and the better of Earth and Gaia. Blah. It's all lies, ladies and gentlemen. The Earth isn't overpopulated. I'll stop myself there because the break is sneaking up. We can get into that on the other side. Stay tuned. 3 short minutes. Don't forget, check out KBS the hour before I'm on. Stay tuned. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment. Wow. Show goes by fast, especially when you have good friends on and intelligent free thinkers. Guys, shameless plugs for your websites and your YouTube channels again, and anything else really quick. Go.
Cheers, Popeye. KevBakerShow.com, and you can tune into the Kev Baker Show where you find me, Marty, and Whistles every weeknight, 11 p.m. in the UK. Over to you, Marty boy.
Yeah, just DJS NorthWest over on YouTube. Thanks very much.
And I just want to give you guys a quick shout out. So people know when we say here at TFR that we're very close, that there's some of us that are very close. The KBS crew, along with Chris and Cherie and Joe and his wife, took very good care of me when my wife passed away 8 months ago. So they are really my family and my good friends. So when we say that we actually have a bond here, it's not just some radio bullshit. We actually speak about it. We're very open because we lead by example here. We cut our own path. We don't follow the path. We make a brand new one right through the middle of the hardest part of the wilderness. That's how we roll here. So, and we stick together. And we try to actually lead by example by showing people that. So I just want to give you guys a big shout out for that, because I know I never gave you guys a proper thank you for that. But it's a perfect example of how we have to take care of one another and come together, because people want to talk solutions. Well, there's a solution. Actually having our friends' backs. Not just blowing smoke up each other's asses, but actually doing action. Actually follow through. Thought, emotion, action. The real Holy Trinity. It's what I talked about again on Friday. Passio and I have talked about it in the Matrix breakdown. That's what Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity represent in the movie. Thought, emotion, and action. You have to think. You have to have that emotion behind and that thought, and combined, hopefully they urge you to the proper action, the right action. That's a solution. As I say, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. It's not some dick in a suit in Washington that says, I'll solve your problems, vote for me. Bullshit. It's not some government bureaucrat, and it's not somebody that comes on air either and says, I have all the answers. If someone tells you they have all the answers, they're full of it. No one has all of the answers or all of the solutions. But what I can tell you is at a base level, the solutions come from all of you. Not from a small group of elite individuals or one individual. They come from all of us. Now, everybody can offer different solutions. I don't know the solution to everything. If I sat down and had time to think about problems, I could put possible solutions out there. That's not the end-all be-all solution. There might be other smart ideas too. But again, that would come from the people. Us. The solutions to our problems are an inside job. Kev?
No, that was really, really profound there, what you were saying about the matrix and the thought, emotion, and action. And that's, you can demonstrate the hack that's gone on here, folks, and how they mind rape us. Because we've all been there. We have been asleep at one point, part of the masses. And, you know, at that point, what you do is when you bother to even look at what's going on in the world, you just react. You don't think about it. You don't put it to your emotions, to your heart, and you don't actually act from a place of knowledge. You just react the exact way that you've been conditioned and programmed to.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it as well as you two guys did there. And one thing for me in all of this is, say, like one of those new age misconceptions of ignoring the negative. Many people are misled to believe that you give power to something just by thinking about it. Oh, well, we won't talk about that, or we won't get involved with that because it's negative and it makes us feel a little bit low, so we should avoid it. And I just say that is the misconception, because I think once you see the negative, it just gives you the ability to prepare yourself against the harmful effects from it. And refusing to look at critical information just because it makes you feel scared or uncomfortable is willfully choosing to remain in a state of ignorance and therefore remain unconscious.
That's exactly what the New Age religion is intended to do, Marty. You just actually gave the textbook definition of it.
Yeah, and I have to actually give some credit to one of my friends, Tony Sayers, over on Facebook, who actually posted an article which contained some of that there, but it did resonate with myself.
Look, when I say the Mark Passio and I have gone into the New Age thing, we did a whole show about it was two topics, and one of them was the New Age religion or New Age whatever debunked. Go look at it in my archives. When I'm talking about New Age, I'm not talking about when I say like love versus fear, things like that. I'm talking about when they tell you exactly what Marty just said. Oh, you can't look at negative stuff because negative stuff makes you feel icky, and anything that makes you feel bad, you shouldn't focus on that. Just focus on positive stuff. Do I tell you to focus on positive stuff all the time? I do preach that, but I also preach that you should be aware as to what's going on around you, ladies and gentlemen. Do you think standing on the tracks as the train is coming, going, the train won't hurt me, the train won't hurt me, the train won't hurt me, I'm surrounded by love and light, do you think the train's going to derail, or do you think you're going to end up as goo on the front and underneath the train? Yeah, I think it's going to be B, okay? I think the train's going to mow you over. There are certain things, certain ways to deal with things. It's okay to know that the train is coming. If you know, you can step off the tracks. You can still put out peace, love, and harmony. You can still be good to your fellow man. You can still take care of each other. We put out a positive vibe here. I don't do fear on my show. I know Kev's not into fear. I know Joe doesn't do fear. We can talk about this stuff in a way that it doesn't scare the crap out of people. But you do need to discuss it. And that's what the New Age religion is for. The New Age religion is to catch people leaving any other religion, and maybe they go towards that, and then in there it ensnares you and it keeps you back into this tiny little bubble, this box, because it tells you don't look at negative stuff.
That's exactly it, Popeye. And David Icke describes it as the last pitfall before being actually awake. Because just when you're about to get it, you go and put a label on yourself and you go all love and light. And there's nothing wrong with love and light. We need more of that, obviously. But you have to look at the darkness and face it, folks, because unless we face our fears, we're never going to overcome them. We're never going to deal with this. And that is the solution. We are the solution, as Popeye always says. I hate to steal his lines, but go and grab a mirror. It's staring right back at you.
It is. And, that's why I tell people to do some self-affirmation, too, by the way. Go in the bathroom, look yourself in the mirror, and tell yourself you're a good person, you love yourself, and you forgive yourself for, past transgressions. Because you have to heal yourself and learn to love yourself before you can love anyone else. Before you can emanate that vibe. And that's not New Age, weirdery or anything like that. That's the truth. There's nothing wrong, by the way, with putting off that love vibe and being lovey and everything like that and living in love. That I want you to. I don't want you to live in fear. But you do have to pay attention that there are bad things. Do you want the problem solved? Well, then you have to acknowledge that there's a problem to begin with. It's as simple as that. If you have something wrong with your body, if your kidneys aren't functioning, do you go, oh, I'm not going to focus on that. That's negative. It'll repair itself. Or do you actually go, oh, well, that could probably kill me. Maybe I should go see a doctor about that. Maybe I should focus on that problem. Just saying. Kev?
Popeye, we all have our good points and our bad points. But as long as we accept that we do have our bad points and we try and correct them, then I believe that's doing the right thing. And, people say that the ego is a bad thing. I don't really agree with that, because at the core of you, that is you. And I always say to people that if you don't love yourself, and I don't mean this in a vain, posing kind of way, but if you don't appreciate your good qualities and what's going for you, then how can you expect other people to appreciate you? And that sounds really self-centered and things like that, but I honestly think that, well, we're here, we get one go at a time, per se, so why not actually live it to the full? Don't close aspects of yourself, your core self.
Well, that's what they want you to do. They want you to... That's why they scare the crap out of everybody. That's why they get everybody afraid. They need you to be afraid of everybody around you and isolated. And that's why they have to bash all sorts of religions. And I know that sounds weird because I just talked about the New Age religion, and I go after... Well, I don't go after it, but I do, I debunk to a certain extent most of the mainstream religions from time to time, and I don't buy into anyone. I've often said that I think that they've all been tweaked by man and by people that want control over the years. Doesn't matter which one. So I really don't think we know the truth about anything until we get into the Vatican archives, at least, and see what's really in there. And then maybe we can sit down and have conversations about it. And then, from there, the truth would come out. So I'm not saying that there's not some sort of grand architect or anything like that. I'm just, when I talk about religion, I don't buy into any of the major ones at all. But anyway, that aside, they're attacking those because that does unify people. That brings people together. Hey, Kev, you and I might be whatever. We worship this person or this thing or whatever, right? The purple spaghetti monster. And, you, me, and Marty all worship the purple spaghetti monster. That brings us together. That's a unifying thing. They can't have that because they need you, Marty, and me to be separated and afraid to even talk to each other, because you and Marty could be Al-Qaeda. You could be purple spaghetti monster Al-Qaeda, Marty.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing that you see, this whole divide and conquer agenda. And just for example, really, to back up what you're saying there, if you look at the Middle East, Iran, and especially Syria, in Syria and Iran, there's people from all different religions and cultures who will actually worship in the same building and then sit around and drink tea and talk afterwards. So it's very, I don't know, it's non-existent, and that's something that the elites can't have, because then the people have too much power. And they need to keep us divided like cattle in a field.
Well, look where we are now, guys. We can't even have a conversation. I mean, we can, but, try having a conversation with someone that disagrees with you. It turns into a screaming match in about 3 seconds. Like, how come we can... And believe me, I understand passion. I love a good, passionate debate. Come on, people. 4.5 years doing radio, you've all heard me. I can't deny it, okay? We all know that sometimes I can get a little heated. Sometimes I can get a little passionate. I love passionate debate. But when did passionate debate turn into not even bringing any logic into it? I don't mind yelling or going back and forth if there's logic, but it just goes right to the logical fallacies. It goes to the insults. You know what I mean?
Popeye, you're talking about things that are like logical fallacies and things like that. And I know there's new people coming to this movement and to this network in particular all the time. And what Popeye's talking about is the kind of thing that they should really be teaching in schools, and it's called the trivium, Popeye, isn't it? And that is why you are so effective when it comes to debating and things like that, because you come from a position of knowledge and you use facts. And the trivium, I mean, that's a show unto itself, but if you could just quickly run over some of the subjects in that we should be teaching our kids in school instead of 2 + 2 = 5.
Well, what I would say is there's multiple websites out there where you can research it, and I would suggest people, instead of just taking what I say or my word for anything, research what the trivium is. Jan Irvin has done a lot of good work in regards to that. You can look up his stuff over on YouTube. I don't know off the top of my head if it's what the name of his YouTube channel is. Somebody in the chat can find it. Many people know who he is. They can drop it in the chat if you guys can. There's other stuff. Just Google there I go, using the dreaded G word. Let me belay my last, as we would say in the Coast Guard. Search out. I'm going to try to use different terminology. See, I'm changing my lexicon too. Certain things just get stuck in your head, but we have to be the change, right? As I constantly preach. So search out. Use search engines to look up the trivium, and I've done shows. Go look at my archive section over on PopeyeRadio.com or on Federal Jack, and just type. If you go to Federal Jack, if you're on Popeye Radio, because it's just an old school directory listing, you're going to have to look up logical fallacies. It's in there. It's in the titles, and you'll see it. But you have to scroll through. If you go to FederalJack.com itself, you can just go in the search bar and just type in logical fallacies, and it'll bring up anything with that listing, and all the shows I've done will be there, and then you can look at the dates and download it from there. It'd be easier to figure out which days they were, because I don't remember. I've done a bunch of shows on them. Listen to those. Do research on logical fallacies. Understand that there are a lot of them. Understand what you want to be able to debate somebody. Understand just like the basics, the basic ones, which are the shows I've done about logical fallacies. And I bring this up because I brought it up so much. We used to joke and say that it was a drinking game, if you guys remember back in the day. But the reason I brought this up then I'm going to go to Marty for his opinion on this. But the reason I bring up logical fallacies is because of what you just said, Kev. The reason why I can sit and debate somebody is because I understand. You have to understand what happens. Even if the person that you're debating isn't some, government sponsored or whatever, or shill or corporation shill or whatever, even if it's just some average individual, they will end up using logical fallacies without even realizing it. The only way to properly handle that is to understand what's going on and be able to stop it. And many times you can point it out to people, and sometimes they'll see it. Sometimes they get pissed off, and that just becomes an argument in and of itself. But it'll stop the debate on said subject, and then there won't be misinformation put out there. And then, because if you respond to any disinfo or misinfo, now you're actually giving that validity because you're responding to it. If someone comes at you with a logical fallacy, you just shoot it down. Man, that's a red herring, or that's a straw man argument, or that's an ad hominem attack. You don't engage that argument because the whole point is to put that argument out there so you engage it. The only way to properly handle that is to not engage it and point out what they're doing and say, if you don't use a real argument or facts, I've already won the debate. End of story. Because the use of logical fallacies, as I've said 1,000 times, ladies and gentlemen, means you don't have a real argument. Marty?
Oh, I absolutely agree with you there, Popeye. I couldn't have said it better, to be honest. And I really like the way you can project that sort of stuff. A much better speaker.
Well done, Marty boy.
Thoughts?
Yeah, just what Marty said. That's why I asked you about it, Popeye. No, I mean, I've looked at that Trivium. I've heard Mark Passio talking about it. Heard another couple of...
He's another one. WhatOnEarthIsHappening.com is Mark's website. Just go to Mark's website. Mark's a good friend of mine, and I always promote him whenever I can because he's another...
No wonder. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's cool. Like, him and I have had some epic conversations off air, just chatting. It's cool to just be able to have people like friends like this and communicate with other humans like this that are on. And we could all be like this, ladies and gentlemen. It's not like this elite few. Everybody has the capability of plugging in and becoming this knowledgeable about these subjects and understanding things on this level. You just have to spend the time. You have to. People go, I don't have the time. I would do it, but do you have time to watch TV? Well, yeah, but that helps me chill out after work. Well, how about you turn off TV, because it's not really helping you chill out after work. It's putting you into a zombie state. That's why you feel chilled out, because you're being downloaded with crap. How about you turn that off? Okay, turn off your cable. Only get internet through the cable company. Okay, so you get cable, high-speed internet. That's it. Turn off that signal. When you get home from work, take your shoes off, go out in your backyard, and ground yourself to the earth for 15 minutes. Just close your eyes, breathe in the air, and enjoy nature for 15 minutes. Ground yourself. Okay? You won't need the TV. And then you can go read a little bit. You can go educate yourself, and that'll help you too. Go listen to Kev's show if you get a chance. And by the way, you can download our shows, ladies and gentlemen, and listen to them on your way to work, while you're working. Everybody has a phone or an MP3 player now. Many cars have USB ports in them where you can plug a USB stick in them. Go to the archive section on Truth Frequency, get a subscription, download all the high-quality archives. Go over to YouTube. If you have YouTube ripping programs, rip that if that's how you want to do it. Go to PopeyeRadio.com. That's the downloadable archive section where you can go for my whole radio show and anything I've ever done audio-wise, other radio shows. Go there. Rip it. That's why we do this stuff. You have to be the solution. That's part of you being the solution and being the change. You have to make the effort. There's a lot of people that say to me, well, if you can show me the evidence, then give me links. No, you do the research. Me doing it for you is not the answer. That's not me. That's me being the solution for you. That's just like you going to a politician or you going to whoever to solve your problems. You have to start small. Do the research yourself. Again, you being the change. And then apply things when you actually see what's going on. Apply the change to your own world. But it's scary, Popeye. Yeah, it is. It is scary. Change is always scary. But what's the alternative? The alternative is not good. And you know what? The only thing to be afraid of is fear itself. Okay? Fear is bullshit. Pull out of the fear vibe, trust yourself, realize your own true potential, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll be surprised what you'll be able to accomplish. Kev?
No, you're bang on, and it is a vibe, and we've all felt it when we're in a room. It can be really, really great atmosphere like we're having tonight, and all it takes is that one negative vibration to enter the room, and it's that powerful, and it's that dense and that low that we all pick up on it, and that's why we all have to drop that. That's why we can't stay in fear. That's what they want. They want us doing the work for them by transmitting that actual energy. All comes back to vibration. Every single time. This seems to be the cornerstone. I'll probably get called a Mason for saying that. I'm not, by the way, but it seems to be the cornerstone of most conversations on a network like TFR. That's why I fell in love with TFR years before I ever became a host or anything, because they spoke about what I consider to be the real news, real information, the stuff that can empower us, not this 5 cents programming that we get from the mainstream. Yeah, we have to go in and decode that, because that is what is painting the reality that is our prison around us, whether we see the bars or not. But you know me, guys, I'm just living out in the woo there, Marty. What's your take, man?
Oh, no, I completely agree with that, man. Absolutely. And that's one thing that I love about the network as well. It's so diverse, and there's, like I say, all walks of life. Not everybody has to agree, but we just respect each other, like I was saying earlier, for the greater good. And that's how it should be in the alternative media as well, and in the whole conspiracy world. Just because you don't agree with the next person's viewpoint on a certain event that happened or whatever, let's not fall out and totally discredit everything and just make make the whole movement look like nonsense to the outside world and to the people that are first getting in there. Just learn to respect each other for the greater good.
Understand that there is no movement. It's like there is no spoon. It's just another label. It's just another box to be caught in. It's just humanity enlightening itself to what's really going on around it. That's all people need to understand. Do not fear, okay? Do not fear. Do not be afraid to live in the love frequency. Some people, whether maybe it's not macho, well, I'm afraid I'll be called a pussy if I do that, Popeye. Well, you're living in fear. Whatever the case may be, unplug from fear, ladies and gentlemen, and then realize the one true reality. The truest thing of all. That you are more powerful than the powers that shouldn't be could ever wish to be, and they are afraid of you. And that's what's going on. They've already lost and they know it. They just realized that you haven't realized it yet. So they think there's a chance. And maybe there is a slight chance that they could pull off their agenda. But you know what? We've already won. From what I can see, we've already won. You just need to realize it, ladies and gentlemen. You need to realize that the answer isn't a broadcaster. It's not a politician. The answers to all of our problems are inside each and every one of us. Do I know the solution to every problem right now? No, because I haven't been presented with the problems to think about and analyze and come back with solutions at this present moment. But you know what? If we all come together, I'm pretty sure we can figure it out. We don't need one person in a suit to tell us what's right. Because more often than not, they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And doing the same thing over and over again was described by Albert Einstein as the definition of insanity. Okay? You have more potential, ladies and gentlemen, in your pinky fingers than the powers that shouldn't be want you to even know about. You are infinite potential. You are infinite consciousness. Remember that. Remember your true potential. Stop being told what you are. You define what you are. Stop letting others define what you are. Kev, go ahead. We got about a minute.
No, you're absolutely right. And we do have to realize that we have already won. We have to realize that the spoon doesn't exist, because while we keep on buying into everything that they're throwing at us, then we'll never wake up to that reality. And that's why we see the backlash just now. You get the most flack when you're over the target, guys. And that's because we're effective. It's been awesome tonight, Popeye. Thank you very much, my man.
Absolutely.
Thank you both, man. I appreciate it. You guys are...
Plug tomorrow, Popeye. Come on.
Good friends, true family. Yes, tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, at I'm on at 7, so 6 p.m. Eastern Standard here in the U.S. On the KBS show, I will be hanging out, and we will be talking about things like this, the nature of reality and the meaning of the Matrix and things like that. Thought, emotion, and action, ladies and gentlemen. The true Holy Trinity, so to speak. Anyway, we're out of time. I love you all, ladies and gentlemen. I know Kevin and Marty do too. So does Nano. So does Johnny Whistles over there. Remember, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. Go be the superheroes we know you all are. We are out of here.